Welcome back to the Double K Farm channel. I'm Joe.
And I'm Rachel.
And we're back here on the farm, and today we're gonna tackle some more construction inside. So we've got all of the walls demoed. We've treated our ceiling for all of the smoke, color, and smell.
Yes.
That was a little bit of an experience. Definitely need to use a respirator and cover yourself up the best you can because it is alcohol based. And it does smell. It took about 3 days to really get the smell out of here. So today we're gonna tackle what I've kind of been glad that we can put off, because I think this will be the hardest part of the reconstruction after the demolition, and that is cutting open the floor in the kitchen, the laundry area, and the 2 bathrooms, because there's a couple of soft spots in both bathrooms, and we are going to reroute all of the plumbing. So we're gonna use PEX A.
Now, why are you using PEX A?
So there's a couple of different kinds of PEX. You have PEX A and PEX B. Those are the 2 biggest ones that everyone's going to use. PEX is definitely the newest technology. It is much better than PVC and much cheaper than copper, and it's what everybody uses. PEX A is called expansion PEX.
Okay.
What that means is the way you put the fittings together is with an expansion tool. And I'll show this to you when we get into the plumbing. But basically what happens is you have your tube and you have to expand the tube, and then you put the fitting in, because your fitting is the same exact width as your tube itself. The reason that that is good is in doing that, you don't have a flow restriction. PEX B, your fitting goes inside of the tube, and then you have to put a clamp around the outside. Well, think about if you have your thumb. So hold your thumb up. So if you hold your thumb like this is your tube. And then you have your pinky. I'll take your other pinky, and put it up next to it. So that's the fitting. That means the water is going from here, and then it needs to go into the smaller diameter. That reduces water pressure.
And we hate that.
So when you use PEX A, it's thumb to thumb.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
The problem is PEX A requires a specific tool. You need an expansion tool to be able to put the fittings together. You can get a manual one or you can get a Milwaukee one. Guess which one I chose? Milwaukee, because it's going to be easier. Also, you can pretty much do it with one hand because you expand it, then put it together, and then it shrinks back into place. Less chance of leaks. Easier to do with one person because you don't have to try to put the fitting in and screw it in and everything else. And also, we're going to be using a manifold system, which is less fittings, therefore less chances of leaks. The only problem with the manifold system, instead of running one pipe, every bathroom needs 3 cold water lines and 2 hot water lines.
I am very excited about this, but we had to begin, and I think we're doing every project that way, determining what is the most important to us. We don't want water leaks. We want to make sure we avoid water leaks, and we want good pressure in our house if we're using multiple water sources. Like if the washer's going and someone wants to take a shower at the same time, we have to make sure that we have a good flow. So that is some things that we just kind of bring into each project. Like that determines how we go about it.
Now, as far as the Milwaukee PEX tool, and again, we'll talk about it a little later, I looked at it this way. The Milwaukee PEX tool setup cost me $599. It is a bit of money. However, we consulted with a plumber, and to do the work that I'm going to do, he wanted $4,500. The tool cost me $599, and all of the plumbing, tubing, and everything combined cost about $150. So
save money.
I'd rather buy the tool,
yeah,
and then do it all myself. Now we're going to do this a little differently, which is one of the reasons we're going to cut open the floor right now. Is I'm going to attempt, hopefully, fingers crossed, this will work,
oh, Lord,
to run the tubes for the plumbing without having to cut the underbelly, because there is an underbelly on the house. The way you would normally do it is crawl under the house, cut that underbelly, run the tubes, put new underbelly up. I don't want to do that. Since we're going to be putting new subfloor over the existing subfloor, and we have to cut holes anyway, we're going to cut holes and try to route it without going underneath the house. And then we can just put the floor back in and then put our new subfloor over the top of it. So We're gonna start in the guest bathroom because that's the room that we want to finish first anyway. So we're here in the guest bathroom, and you can see they've obviously had some issues here in the past where they had leaks because there's a bunch of cutouts. So that's obviously a new board. That over there is a new board. This here is a new board. That obviously needs to be changed out. And then this also is really soft. I cannot figure out what kind of screws they used here because they sunk them in. So what we're gonna use is our multi-tool and try to cut this a little bit because I wanna see where the beams are. I'm assuming that this is how the beam runs. I don't wanna use my circular saw. I mean, I'd love to use my circular saw, but I also don't wanna cut through beams. So we're gonna use the multi-tool and just see if we can see what's going on, and then we may pull out the circular saw. Wow. We've got quite a mess here. Let me show you what's going on. First of all, I'm looking over here, and he had a fitting on here, a shark bite connection, and you can see it's leaking. Because it's leaking, this floor over here is wet. You can see how it's newly wet. It's probably just been dripping for a little while. He probably capped it like right before we bought the house. There's no insulation left here underneath the bathroom. Could be that he took it out in trying to fix the leaks, but you can see that he's added a couple beams to be able to replace wood. This is new, this is new. There's obviously some wetness up here on the very top. Over here is good because that's a fresh, wet spot. Over here obviously has been rotting for a while. He tried to do some stuff right before we closed, and I have a feeling that this was part of what he did. So then over here, look at this by the toilet. I don't know what he was doing here. He just shoved stuff in here, paper towels. There's a t-shirt. I mean, it's just a mess. So, you know, we did find out it's put in with staples, yippee. So all the old flooring is put in with staples. The new flooring he has in with star bits. So we're gonna actually pull this piece out because we're moving everything over. That's gonna be the tub. This kind of needed to be done anyway because we're gonna reroute a bunch of plumbing. So this needs to move over there. Then we're gonna move the toilet from there, probably to over here or maybe here. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm gonna have to do some measurements. And then we're gonna move the sink from here to over in this corner here. So everything had to come up anyway. From what I can see, the plumbing pipes are running down underneath this floor. So we're gonna take out this piece and figure out where the plumbing runs to. This will be the hardest room for running the plumbing because we're on the opposite side. So the inlet for the water is over there under the kitchen. So right where the hot water heater is, right underneath there is where all the water comes in. And from there to the bathroom, to the washer and dryer, and to the kitchen, it's a straight run. So that'll be easy. This is on the other side of the house. So it's down and then over. So I'm hoping that, you know, this goes down, and even if we have to cut open the underbelly, we can just do one straight line. So like maybe here, I'm really hoping that the pipes run this way and then up the side of the house. Because if that's the case, it'll be really easy. You know, the only thing is to do the PEX the way I want to do it, using a manifold so that we can shut water off, kind of like a circuit breaker. That means we have to run 5 sets of plumbing pipe over here. So you're gonna have 3 cold and then 2 hot. That's the way I'd like to do it. If I have to, I will make this just a hot and a cold and then branch everything off. But I really don't want to do that. I really want to do it right And to do it right, I need 3 separate hot lines, 3 separate cold lines and 2 separate hot lines. We're gonna keep pulling up the floor and see what else there is. So for running the PEX pipe to this bathroom, it looks like it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. So you have the pipes that are in here right now, and it's basically fed by a 1/2-inch pipe. So you can see here, these are the supply pipes. This is the hot, this is the cold. I already kept off the cold because of that one leak, even though I have the water turned off. Basically what they had is, this is 1/2-inch pipe, and then it was branching off to go to the sink, to the toilet, and then over here to the shower. So the problem is, this is on the other side of the double wide. So you have the frame beams going up and down, the I-beams going up and down, and this is on the opposite side. So the water that's coming in, as well as the water heater and where everything branches off, that's on the opposite section. So you have to cross over 2 I-beams to get to where we're at. Now the interesting thing is, this is the kitchen sink. So they have 3/4-inch pipe. This is coming from the hot water heater and the cold water in. So you have 3/4-inch pipe that feeds up here into your kitchen sink, and then this was feeding into your dishwasher. Then you can see here, this then feeds over to the other side of the double wide. It's interesting that this is 3/4-inch. Normally, what you would do is, if you were doing the branch method, which is what that is, where you would have 3/4-inch pipe going down, and then each fixture has 1/2-inch pipe. This would be 3/4-inch pipe all the way over to the end, and then the toilet, the sink, and the shower would be branching off on 1/2-inch. That would help you maintain pressure. But it looks like somewhere underneath the home, it goes from 3/4-inch pipe, probably somewhere right around the midsection, the join line, and then it goes to 1/2-inch pipe, and then all the branches are also 1/2-inch pipe. The problem is, I don't know where the turns are. I was really hoping that this was coming straight across from the bathroom over to this side and then straight down. But obviously, that's not how they did it. And it kind of makes sense that that's not how they did it, because again, it's a double wide and it would have been delivered in 2 different pieces. So I went underneath the home and I cut a couple of slits in the underbelly. I could not find any of the pipe, so I kind of give up. One option was going to be to actually like cut little holes in the floor to find the junction, but that's gonna be a lot of work because of all the staples. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna run new pipe. And what I mean by new pipe is, we're gonna start over here at the bathroom, and we're gonna run 3 lines of cold and 2 lines of hot, and we're gonna come straight down like this. Then we're gonna come underneath, obviously, we're gonna come to right here, and then we're going to follow down this way over to that box over there, which is where all the water comes in. Doing it this way is going to allow me to strategically cut little slits in the underbelly, where basically I can kind of feed it through, because it's on top of the insulation. So you have the underbelly, then the insulation. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of feed it through, and then maybe every, like at each I-beam, I'll have to cut a little slit to feed it through. But then we can patch that slit with like an Eternabond or Gorilla Tape or something like that. It's not like the underbelly down there is in the greatest condition. I mean, I put my hand up in there and you can see the insulation is kind of falling apart. But if I at least go ahead and put some Eternabond over it and fill some spots that I find that have holes in it, it'll at least prevent some critters and mice and things like that from getting up in there. It's not gonna be perfect because there are little holes everywhere, but I just don't wanna tackle replacing the underbelly right now. But this will be the easiest way to run this plumbing. Well, this is an interesting angle. Okay, so I'm underneath the house, right here on the edge of the house. So you can see right here is the edge. If we go straight down this way, that's where the pipe comes in to the house from the well. So if we run the pipe straight across here and then put elbow down this way, that would really be the easiest way to do it. So I had actually put a slit here in the underbelly to look for the pipe, and obviously I didn't find it. And if I take my hand and I push it all the way down, I can slip my hand up between the floor and the I-beam. And so what we would have to do is run all the way down over there. You can see over there, those are the sewer pipes coming out of the bathroom. But I have a better idea. So rather than cutting the underbelly at each I-beam and trying to feed 5 lines of PEX piping, why not run it inside of a PVC sleeve? Now, technically, I could just run it under the house because it's not being exposed to the sun, and PEX is susceptible to UV. But why not run it inside of like a piece of PVC pipe? So for example, like if I got 3 or 4 inch PVC pipe and made the run inside of the PVC pipe, and then just have the PVC pipe feed up into the bathroom. So basically everything is protected. It's inside of the PVC pipe. And then once we get everything, on each end, we can just seal up that PVC pipe so critters and things like that can't get inside of that. That would protect the PEX piping and also make it much easier to run. And then also if I ever had to run more line or anything like that, or replace a piece of piping, it would be super simple because it would all be inside of that PEX piping. So what we're gonna do is see, can we fit 5 pieces of PEX pipe inside of this PVC pipe? Because if this works, and there's no reason why it wouldn't work, I could actually make the run from the bathroom to the side of the house, and then from the side of the house all the way up to the water line. So just put an elbow up here, make all my PEX connections, and then I probably wouldn't even PVC glue that together, because this way we could always take it apart if we needed to. Okay, we got it done. I did not film it because I was underneath the house, which actually isn't so bad. You have about 2.5, maybe 3 feet to work with. So you kind of, like, I can kind of sit on my knees, not standing up, but like I can crawl on my hands and knees to get around. Sometimes it's easier to just scoot on your back, which is why my back looks like that. So what we did was we kind of changed the routing a little bit to save pipe. So all of the PEX piping goes in right here, and I have it feeding into a 90-degree conduit. So I did not use conduit for the run. I used PVC for the run. But for the 90 degrees, I use conduit because, again, this is not a plumbing issue. This is really just like a sleeve. It's a conduit for PEX piping. But PVC 90s are a very tight turn, and the PEX wouldn't be able to do that. And I was trying to avoid 90-degree fittings. So the conduit, obviously, you can see is a much wider 90-degree turn. So we have the 90-degree conduit going down to under the house, and then we have 35 feet, about 34 feet of 2-inch PVC pipe that runs from here, and it runs diagonally across the house from here to where all the connections are going to be made. That saved a lot of pipe, because if I was going to do it the original way, we were going to go from here to the window. That was like 23 feet. And then another like 35 feet from the window down to the supply. And when you're running 5 lines, why not just make, one straight route, right? The easiest way is a direct path. So then we did some straps to hang it down. Everything is labeled. We labeled each pipe here for what fixture it's going to go to, because that'll help me when I install the manifold. My only mistake, actually I have 2 mistakes. I'll show you the other one in a minute. I decided to try to save money and use 2-inch pipe. So 5 lines does fit in the 2-inch pipe. It was just a very tight fit. So trying to get it to go through was a little challenging, but we were able to do that with me pulling and Rachel pushing it. In hindsight, I should have just used 3-inch. It would have made it much easier, but using 3-inch pipe would have cost me about another $100 or so. The fittings alone for both the couplers and then the 90 degrees are almost triple the price at Home Depot over a 2-inch pipe. So we went with 2-inch to save money. The pipe was $10 per 10-foot length cheaper. So it is what it is. We got it in. That's all that matters. Let me show you the other little mistake that we're thinking about fixing now. So we ran all of the pipe underneath the house. it runs into this supply closet, which is basically for our hot water heater. And you can see this is the guest bath coming up through a piece of PVC pipe that we can then put some foam insulation, and it's coming up in there. Now those pipes are gonna run into a manifold. So if you don't know what a manifold is, in my opinion, it's the best way to run PEX piping. So you can do the old fashioned method, which is branch, where you run 3/4 inch pipe and then feed 1/2 inch off of that. But think about the way that works. If you turn on the sink in the kitchen and that's the first one on the line, or maybe, you know, for example, your hose outside, and then from there you try to take a shower, well, the hose is going to get better pressure than your shower. And we experience that at our house right now in Fort Lauderdale. If you turn on a hose, nobody can take a shower in the house. Running as a manifold, you have your supply comes in from the well, it goes into this manifold. The manifold then feeds into your hot water heater and then the hot water heater back in. From there, everything gets diverted equally. So think about a panel for your electricity. The wire comes in and then it branches out to each one of your circuit breakers. Well, every single fixture, every supply line in the house has its own tube. That's why you have so many tubes running. It's a little bit more expensive. I mean, a PEX pipe really is not that expensive anyway, but you have more PEX piping, but everything is gonna feed into the manifold. So with the supply coming in, the hose and the shower are all on the same thing. So it doesn't matter if somebody turns on the hose and somebody turns on the shower, they're gonna get equal pressure. So it distributes all of your water pressure equally. And the best part about it is on the manifold, it's got shut off. So let's say you have a leak. I don't have to turn off all the water to the house. I can turn off just that fixture here. So, you know, in a shower, many times you can't turn off your shower fixture, right? Because it's behind a wall. Well, I can come to the manifold and just turn off the shower, and I don't have to worry about turning off the water to everything else in the house. Same thing is if there's a leak in your hose line, you can turn off just the hose line right at the manifold because that is gonna feed the hose line. The problem is I wasn't thinking about this hot water heater. So I have this supply tube here. This is only that one room. We still have to do the master bath, the laundry, and the kitchen. And now I'm thinking, am I gonna be able to get the hot water heater out? Now, my goal is to eventually change this. I wanna go to instant, but our son is telling us that electric instant isn't a good idea. So our son is a master electrician. If you're in the Central Florida area, Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce area, he's a master electrician. He owns his own company. And he said one of the problems with the electric instant hot water heaters, especially when you're like looking for a whole house one, is it draws a lot of electricity. The one that we were looking at, which is like, I think 11 gallons per minute, it needs 3 50 amp breakers. That means that it's gonna draw a lot of electricity when it's trying to heat the hot water. And he said, what happens is when that thing starts actually heating water, all of your lights flicker. And I started doing Google search because yes, my son's a master electrician. Yes, I trust him, but I'm still his dad and want to feel like I know more and feel like, you're just joking me, right? Because you don't want to help me. No, it's a thing. If you look on Google and get into plumbing forums, everybody complains about the fact that your lights flicker when you use an electric instant water heater for your whole house. That really the only way around that is to have your electric company come out and run a completely separate line. Well, we're not doing that. The other option is gas. I'm having a hard time finding anybody that would come do gas and put it on the outside. So we're thinking maybe hybrid. So we may eventually change this hot water heater, and now I can't get it out. So I think what we're gonna do is, while we haven't connected everything, we're gonna move that pipe, and we only have to move it a couple of inches. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in here, and we're gonna drill a hole through here and have it come up and then feed in that way. So it's just a matter of going back underneath, disconnecting the conduit, which I did not glue together anyway, because again, it's not for pressure or anything like that. Just disconnect it, cut off about 2 inches, and then we can feed everything up this wall and then into the manifold in that room. This way we still have access, and if I want to put a bigger hot water heater, we can. So here's what we ended up doing. We decided that since we're in the middle of demolition and reconstruction anyway, why not just do what needs to be done right now? So we ended up cutting out that wall, and we're just gonna change out the hot water heater now. Now we'll do the hot water heater in a separate video, but let me show you what we've done so far. So what I did was I just cut out these studs right here. They're not load bearing or anything. We're going to extend this room out to about here because the new hot water heater is slightly wider. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna move the plumbing over a little bit. That will allow us to have the whole manifold on this wall. The new water heater will only come to about here. So that'll give us about an extra 6 to 8 inches to be able to get in there, have access to all of the plumbing, the manifold and everything else. And then we'll be able to have a better hot water heater, and we won't have to deal with all of the issues with having an instant electric hot water heater, and we won't have to have a gas company come in and route gas lines through the entire house. In the end, the hybrid hot water heater that we purchased will do what we're looking to do, and it will actually help cool the house. We actually have that same exact hybrid hot water heater at our house in Fort Lauderdale, and it has worked phenomenal over like the last 7 years. We've had 0 issues, and it actually cooled our garage. So it'd be really cool to see what it does in the house. So since we redid the inside plumbing, I decided to redo some of the supply plumbing coming out of the well. No, I'm not that great at doing glue to make it look nice and neat, but it doesn't really matter to me. So anyway, we replaced the line coming up out of the ground right underneath the house. So it's all the way down there, and then we just have 2 pieces of 3/4 inch PVC. And we pretty much just duplicated the system they had. So we have this little arch here, and then we have a dual flow check valve right here. We replaced the one that they had. There was a lot of calcium buildup, so they probably had a slows leak. And then it comes up here. Here's gonna be our main water shutoff. There's also one over at the well. And then here is going to connect to our PEX pipe that feeds up into our manifold. So like I said, we decided to go with the Rheem hybrid hot water heater. And like I said, we have one of these in our Fort Lauderdale house. This is a 50-gallon unit. It's tall because you basically have an air conditioner built in. The tank itself ends somewhere right around here or so. But basically what this does is it sucks in hot air from here. And there is a ducting system which we've ordered, where you basically put a duct attachment on here, and then we're going to put a duct in there, so it'll be taking hot air from inside of the house. And then what it does is it actually blows the cold air out here. And it's same thing, we can order a duct system. So instead of just blowing it back into the closet, it'll duct it and blow it up through there. So what we did was we basically framed everything out. We put a new piece of sheetrock in the back corner, not gonna bother finishing it. And then this is all of our supply tubes. Now we still have to run the supply tubes over there for the master bathroom, but we can get everything going. So these right here are coming from our guest bath. This is our laundry and also an outside hose. And then this one over here is for our kitchen. And like I said, that'll be the master bath. And this is the main supply feed from underneath. Tabitha's breathing heavy.
I know, she is the heaviest breather. It's like so weird. It's always like the hottest breath too. So if you're ever chilly when you're around us, just ask Tabitha to breathe on you. You'll be fine.
So at this point, we're pretty much waiting for the manifold system. All of the piping is run except for the master bathroom. But the beautiful thing about the manifold system that we're gonna be putting in is we can connect what we need. For example, the hose outside so we can feed into our RV, as well as the laundry facilities, and not have to worry about everything else because we can turn it all off. So what we're gonna do is wait for that. It's supposed to be delivered tomorrow. At that point, we'll pick the video back up. We'll make some of the connections, and then we'll probably begin ripping up the floor in the master bathroom and then run that set of pipes. Now, that's gonna be the end of this video. If you got anything out of this video, we would really appreciate it. Do us a favor, hit that like button down below. That does two things. Number one, it is going to really help build our channel, which we greatly appreciate. And number two, it lets us know what kind of videos you guys are looking to see.
Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also the bell button. And that way, every single time we install something, you'll be alerted to it.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.